My name's Rob Goldies. This is Matt Bush. We're co-founders of High Robotics. You may have seen our demo over near the IoT cabin earlier this week. And what we do is we provide robots as a service to manufacturing companies. So similar to what Salesforce has done with software as a service, we do the same thing with robots. Forward-looking statements. You've probably seen this all week. So why connect robots to the cloud or whatever it is that you do? And what we have found for our business is that our customers require it. If we're going to deploy a robot at a manufacturing company, they need to ensure that we can know what's going on with the robot, be able to do things like preventative maintenance, collect data off of it. And so for us, it's a business imperative. The other piece is that because our business charges by the productive hour, we have to understand what it's doing and when it's being used so that we can do things like billing. But the other thing that happens once you connect a product, whether it's a robot or whatever it is that you make to the cloud, is that you can do additional things beyond just maintenance and service, is that you can provide data to your customers, do notifications of critical events, things like collaboration, and even for us, changing operations. So we have robots that do multiple things with a customer, and through the cloud, through a mobile app, we can tell that robot in the field, now it's time to do this, or now it's time to do that. So I think a lot of people ask, that's great, everybody's talking about IoT, and people say Industry 4.0, and people are already, even before that, they're talking about Industry 5.0 and using a lot of buzzwords, but where do you begin? And so the point of this presentation is to help companies like you or people like you figure out, how do I actually connect my product to the cloud, and how do I use Salesforce to do that? So I thought it made sense to and I'm going to walk through this, but go through a high-level architecture of how we've done it. And it doesn't mean that's the only way to do it, but this kind of explains what we do. And so when we deploy a robot in the field, the robot is connected to the cloud, obviously. We deploy it with an embedded computer on it that you can see underneath in the blue box that talks to us via cellular, because we don't want to have to ask our customers to get onto their IT network and deal with the sometimes headaches that you find with getting onto somebody else's network. And so our robots are sending events over cellular, and what we're doing is we're using Firebase, which is a Google product, to collect those real-time events. And then we have some custom code that we've developed and that we run in Heroku to listen for those events and pull them off of Firebase and inspect them and do things with them. And then what we do once we've got that event in Heroku is that we're storing the event data into a Postgres database, at least the structured part of it. And we also send the event off to a service called Keen.io, which is an analytics as a service company. You think of them as an API company. The event travels from Postgres, and we're keeping our events inside of Postgres. So what you don't want to do if you're collecting a lot of event data is think that you can put that into, I'll say, Salesforce proper. I mean, you can, but you're going to get crushed on data cost, data usage, response time, and things like that. And so what we do is we leave our event data in Postgres, but what we do is summarize event data into daily buckets and things like that we want to keep in Salesforce for purposes of billing. So we use Heroku Connect to synchronize some of the daily totals and daily buckets from our Postgres database and get it into Force.com. So the other thing that's happening is as we're inspecting data from the event data that comes into Heroku, is that we are looking to see if it has a message payload. And if it has a message payload, we've defined that means it's going to become a chatter message. And so our robots, I'm going to take it out of full screen mode so you can see what's going on here. But our robots, depending on what's in that event that we're inspecting in Heroku, is that our robots, including this one over here, which is Robot B9, if it has message as part of its payload, in Heroku, we're hitting the Chatter API to send a message via Chatter. And likewise, we're listening to streaming APIs to understand if anything on our robot records and other things that are happening at Force.com have changed so that we can update accordingly within Heroku. The other thing that's important, and the reason we decided to build on the Force.com platform, is mobile. And for us, our customers are on shop floors, right? They're not sitting in front of a desktop. They're not sitting in front of a terminal. And so we wanted to make the data available to our customers via something they have in their pocket, whether they're on the shop floor, on vacation, or home at night. And so what we do is we leverage Salesforce communities and the mobile SDK to develop the mobile app to give our customers data in their pocket. And so what you see happening here is that depending on what's happening, what kind of messages are coming in, if somebody is subscribed to the record with our mobile app, we're going to generate an Apex. Using Apex, we're going to generate a push notification to their phone. And from the device, from the phone, they're connecting in through the Salesforce mobile SDK into communities to see visualizations and dashboards of what's going on. I don't know if you've had a chance to go see the mobile SDK team. They've got some space set up here, but what they started supporting late last year in mobile SDK 4.0 and since is React Native. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with React Native or has done any mobile development, but it's a very powerful open source framework that Facebook has developed and supports, and now Salesforce supports that too. And so it's very, relatively speaking, it's very straightforward to develop a mobile app that can connect into Salesforce using React Native. And what the Salesforce team has provided in React Native is very simple to use interfaces to the Salesforce APIs. So you can do things like send requests, which is kind of a generic call the API and wait for a response, create a record, delete a record, update a record. And so that's how we hydrate the app. So when somebody goes into their app, we call a number of different APIs on the Salesforce platform through the mobile SDK to give the user experience what they're expecting. So not intended to read that because it probably looks like 2-point font from there, but this is just summarized functions within the mobile SDK to show that even in the documentation that they provide you, if you get interested and involved in React Native and use the mobile SDK, they have great documentation on how you can use the APIs that they provide in React Native to do things like create records, update records, delete records, but also to access metadata, or do something more generic like the Apex REST. And so we use a number of custom APIs to improve the performance in our mobile app. As I mentioned earlier, what's extremely important and what can be relatively easily done with a mobile app is do push notifications. And so you imagine an operations person walking on the shop floor or at home or on vacation, and they want to know what's happening with their robot in their factory or what's happening on second shift. You absolutely could go into a device and log in and see what's happening, but now we have the ability to do push notifications, fairly straightforward within the Salesforce platform. And so our robots are doing things like sending messages like air pressure's too low, or I made a part, or in the case that we have here on the side, Matt's playing a Tower of Hanoi game, which is what we have set up near the IoT cabin. It's taunting him with some of his game times. But with mobile push notifications, you can push events that are happening, obviously, that are coming into the platform, and so give your customers, real-time notifications of important things that might be important to them. Again, 2-point font, not intended to read what we're doing, but this is how we're using push notifications. So when we post to the Chatter API from Heroku, we're inspecting in Apex what that Chatter message is, who's subscribed to the record, and calling simple Apex classes on the feed item to say who subscribes to the message. Let's go look at the feed body. Let's go format it to say robot B9 said this. And the same thing that is in a push notification is going to show up in the Chatter feed as well. An important thing for mobile, or at least that we found, is minimizing API round trips. And so for us, what we've done is leverage the custom REST APIs on the Force.com platform. And so when a customer logs into communities, there's a number of different records and pieces of data that we want to hydrate the app with. Things like user info. Are they a standard user or are they a community user? What account do they belong to? What robots should they have access to see? What custom dashboards that we have custom object for dashboards and charts? What should they be able to see? And so if we didn't use custom REST APIs, we'd be making a request and waiting a response back for each of those things. Wouldn't be the best, potentially wouldn't be the best performance and user experience. And so what we've done is develop a standard custom API so that we can make a single request and get back a JSON object with everything that user needs to hydrate the app and get going. Similar to push notifications, custom REST APIs are fairly straightforward too. If you've developed any Apex, you're simply doing some annotations on the class and defining a get or a post or patch or whatever method that you want it to respond to. Using the request and response methods, doing whatever you need within that Apex class to go pull records, whatever you want to respond with, and then putting that into a response body. Wanted to show a demo. So Matt's been over here playing, and I'll let him kind of talk and show you what we're doing over here.
Yeah, so with the iPad, through the mobile SDK, we are actually controlling the robot. So I'm playing a game of Tower of Hanoi out of my head because there's no discs up here right now, but let him finish setting up. So we are literally through the cloud. We're controlling the actions of the robot. So as I play the game, we're sending through Firebase, through the SDK, all the moves that we want the robot to make. So as we're moving our finger on the screen, he's coming around and making the exact same sets of moves. Then as we're completing moves, we're sending data packets up through the cloud, through all the infrastructure that Rob was talking about so that we can gather all that data so we know exactly how long the customer took to make a part. We know what the diagnostics data on the robot is, the joint voltages, the joint temperatures, so that we can monitor all of that from afar and make sure that the robots are running as they should be in the field. Very similar to what Salesforce does with keeping our servers up and running all the time.
So I'll do a quick, see if we can show you what a customer would see with our mobile app. Okay. So this is our mobile app. Our customers log into our mobile app using Salesforce communities. It doesn't look like Salesforce 1. We wanted to brand it and have it respond the way we want it to. And so this is a native app that our customers download from the App Store, install, use their community credentials to log into. And for example, a robot running right now up in Ohio, this is the dashboard data that customer wanted to see. And to show you that the robots send chatter messages, here's another robot. New tray of parts loaded, resuming. I need more work, por favor. This is a robot down in Miami, so our customers natively speak Spanish. So we have a little fun with that. And then we can also do things with using chatter and images through chatter messages, develop a native experience where our customers could. This is a simple image of from my desktop, but customer in the field could upload a picture if they were having a problem, put it into what is a chatter group, and we can see and collaborate with them from our mobile app. Wanted to kind of go through some additional resources on how you could get started. Obviously, I think everybody here knows that you can sign up for a free developer account. Go to salesforce.com, set up a developer account, or use the one that you have already. If you wanted to use something like Firebase, and there's other real-time messaging clients out there, Firebase is free for up to 100 connections, and I think it's 10 gig per month transfer. Heroku, we use Heroku. You can set up a free Heroku account. You can write code on Heroku in any language you want, Node.js, Python, Java, many languages that they support. Postgres on Heroku, if you wanted to store events. Again, you'll notice a theme here, right? Free, you can get, I think it's 1 million or 10 million records with Postgres free trial account on Heroku to try, or 10,000 records, I guess it is. To store data and play around with things and get going. Heroku Connect, again, free. If you wanted to synchronize data from your Postgres database into your Force.com account or your Salesforce account, you can play with that. Very easy, point and click to say, I want to synchronize these objects, and that happens in real time without burning up your API calls. React Native is an open source Facebook open source development environment for doing mobile apps, free. The mobile SDK from Salesforce, free. And then there's a really good repository if you're really interested in playing around with mobile development that Salesforce has put out called Smart Sync Explorer React Native. And so you can download the repo. They've got instructions on how to launch it on a Mac with Xcode or on Android if you want to use Android Studio. And it's a fairly simple, looking at, I think, context and accounts, but you can start playing with code and tying it into your organization to see your data and playing with React Native and the mobile SDK to see what's possible. That's all I have. We're HiRobotics. Happy to answer any questions people might have right now. We're going to be in the IoT cabin the rest of the day. And so you're welcome to come by and play with the robot and ask questions and get into more details. Thank you.